So today we're going to continue the what skills. What are you doing when you're being mindful? So let me ask you this. Do you really think that just talking about your emotions is going to help you in any way? Because I can tell you that it's not. It's about what you do as well. And the two skills that we're going to talk about today are called participating and describing. So the participation skill is for all of you out there that like to second guess people that like spend all their time interpreting stuff. What does this mean? What does that mean? What does the rest of it? You know, those of you that jump to conclusions about people, you know, someone looks at you up and down and you think it's because they hate you rather than, I don't know, they're admiring your shoes or something. Yeah, and it's for those of you that have got sort of extreme thinking styles, black and white, all or nothing sort of thinking styles. So what the describe skill does is it takes out all of that stuff. And a good way of looking at it is to think about what radio commentators do, whether it's on a royal wedding or on a football match or something like that. You know, what they do is they describe things in a way that you can draw the picture. And if you can draw the picture for yourself, you can define a problem for yourself. So the difference between I'm an idiot and I've spilt my milk on the floor because I put the cup close to the edge. Or, you know, I'm continually late because it takes me half an hour to get to work and I leave 15 minutes before I'm due there. One way, I'm an idiot, just gives us no clue about how to solve it. But leaving late for a half an hour journey with 15 minutes to go, there's loads of ways that you can solve that. There's loads of ways that you can solve that problem. And that's really what describing does. It puts words on an experience for people. Yeah. And there's been some really interesting studies done on this. There was one study that was done years ago, and what they did is they took two groups of people, about 20 people each, and what they did is they showed them lots of distressing videos of children being hurt, animals, you know, really upsetting stuff. And they wired them up to brain scans. And what they did is they took one of the control groups and they taught them how to describe. And the other group, they didn't. They just said, watch this. And so then they measured their levels of distress. And what they saw at the end of this study was that over both groups, the people that could describe were 20%, or actually 19% less agitated than those that couldn't do that. And what they did was because they labeled their experiences, they would say things like, well, when I saw that, I noticed that I got really angry, or when I saw this, my jaw tightened, my hands clenched, or when I saw that, I noticed that I became very hot, or when I saw that, I looked away and put my hands up, or you know, so they described emotions, they described behaviors, they described urges, and it gave them a clue. It's like cluing yourself in to your own mind. And that 19% that they got was really useful for you, especially if you're highly sensitive to emotions or dysregulated. Because if you're dysregulated, your emotions might hit 80, 90 out of 100. And when we hit 80, 90 out of 100, we're really starting to lose control. So if you're at 80 or 90 and you can hit that 20% and regulate yourself down by 20%, you're now back in control. And that's just by the way that you might talk about something. Just to recap that, yeah, this is another what skill. It's about describing people that second guess and interpret, think about radio commentaries, put words on the experience, and actually down-regulate yourself by about 20%. So that's really what this one's about. Let's go on to the participate skill, which is the second part of this. Now, participation, this is the ultimate goal. Yeah? So I want you to think about, how do you feel when you're dancing, or playing a musical instrument, or even going for a run, right? Participation is something, if you think about those things, you do it with all that you've got, right? And when you're participating, I mean fully throwing yourself into the moment, right? there's no room for self-consciousness. You know, when you're dancing, you're really in the flow. This is really about being in the flow, or that's what it's called in mindfulness, join in the flow. When you're in the flow, you're not thinking about tomorrow. You're not worrying about yesterday. You're not even thinking about what you look like. Yeah. So no room for self-consciousness, no evaluating, no excluding. But more importantly, right, when you're in that flow, it's not possible to have negative thoughts. Yeah. You might come out of it, but then you use those mindfulness skills to come back to it. So participation, all that you've got, and you push that, into it. So I can remember, I remember an important story for me when I was younger. So my dad lives in America, and I remember I went over to see him one weekend, and he said to me, look, I'm going to go. It was one Sunday morning. He said, boy, he calls me boy because he can't remember my name. And he says to me, look, do you want to come to church? And I'm like, what? No, the last thing I want to do is go to church. And he goes, well, okay, but there is a barbecue afterwards, ribs and chicken and collard greens and all of like my favourite food. So I think to him, well, it's 9 o'clock in the morning, but I'll come. So I jump in the car with him, and we drive off to the church, and it's one of those churches, one of those American churches where people are running up and down the aisles, they're speaking in tongues, they're Jesus loves me, yes he does, and all of this, and there's all this sort of stuff that I'm not really into. And I was sitting there thinking, oh God, how long is this going to take? So I look at my watch, and I've been there about 10 seconds. So I say to my dad, I was like, oh, can I borrow your car and go? He's like, no, you can't. So I have to sit there. And as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, God, it's only 10 o'clock. So I said to my dad, what time's the barbecue? And he says, it's at 12:30. And I'm like, what? Thinking 2.5 hours. How am I going to get through that? So what I did is I jumped up and I started singing the songs, and I was running up and down the aisles. Jesus loves me, yes he does. Jesus loves me, yes he does. Speaking in tongues. I put $10 in that donation box. I actually took 20 out of the next one, but I was running up and taking it, and really jumped in and threw myself into it. And it wasn't the best experience I've ever had, but it did make the time go through a lot faster. So this is some of the benefits of what offers, and you can do it with things that you're having difficulty with, or things that you're enjoying. So really, to recap about it, what we're talking about here is throwing yourself in. Yeah, it's like, when you get invited to a party and you don't want to go. If you go to that party and you stand back with your back against the wall and you look at your feet, yeah, that's not really participating. When you go to a party and participate, you go and you get involved and you do stuff. So what we're talking about is throwing yourself into the activity, whatever it is for you. Yeah, it helps you with getting rid of negative thoughts, evaluating stuff all the time, and excluding stuff. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to tell you about how you can get involved in this part of the skills. The skills for this are, so what you can practice is just practice describing what you're doing. So this might be, I'm walking down the stairs. I can feel each footstep on the floor as I'm walking down the stairs. I'm entering into the kitchen. I'm filling the kettle with water. I'm clicking the button down and putting the kettle on. I'm boiling the kettle. I'm pouring the water onto the tea bag. Just describe what you're doing to yourself in each moment. Yeah, you'll notice that as you do this, after about a minute and a half, you start to feel much calmer. Or you might describe what someone else is doing. Yeah, okay, this guy is putting his hands in both of his pockets. He's looked up, he's looking at the clouds, he's walked past me. I could smell tobacco as he walked past me. Or you could look at the detail, do something like look at a leaf. Describe it in as much detail as you can. Don't put your beliefs in it. You're trying to sort of unglue yourself from your own opinions of something, your own interpretations, your own beliefs, and your own thoughts about something. And if you hear these, you can see that how that could be helpful if you just didn't keep evaluating things all the time. So that's what you could do when you're describing. And so for participating, you can get up in the morning and sing your heart out in the shower. Just sing as much as you can. Jump into the moment with all that you have. Yeah? You can go for a run and just focus on the running. Focus on different parts, different aspects of the running. Your feet pounding on the floor, your chest, your heart, your chest beating. Yeah. Or there are other ways of doing it, a little bit more cosmic maybe, where you can sort of maybe become aware, participate in the world, become aware of the connections. So, right now I'm aware of my feet on the floor. I'm aware that the floor is holding me up, that the building is holding the floor up. I'm aware of the floor connecting to all the people in this room. So I'm now connected to all the people in this room because all of our feet are on the floor. I can be aware of loads of different connections. Yeah. There are people in this room now and they're breathing in what I'm breathing out. So if I fart, someone's breathing that in, and we're all connected by that. So thinking about our connections, that's also part of participating. So what I want you to do, if you dare, right, is jump into this one and start practicing this. The way to really check out whether something's working for you or not is by having a go at it, right? And of course, this isn't going to change after one, but maybe it will if you practiced it solidly every day for a week or two. Yeah. So like I said, the evidence base is increasing for this. So give it a go, or you could just stay miserable, right? If I've said it once, I've probably said it 3 times. Check out on Instagram all the other resources that are going on, taking care of your mindset.